Good evening, friends. This is Isaiah, and you are here. The topic of discussion I want to get into today is the subject of programming. Up to this point, we've discussed many things. We've talked about belief systems, how our bodies act as a type of human antenna. We've talked about the subconscious mind. We've talked about making assumptions, whole host, variety of things. I've talked about myself a little bit. Tonight's episode, we're going to bring that all together just a little bit. We're going to talk about the subject of programming. Now, when I say that word programming, what does that mean to you? Programming is just what it says. Things outside of us that program our minds, whether we're aware of it or not. You see, we're constantly consuming information with the five senses. In all of our waking hours, and even when we're asleep, on a subconscious level, we are perceiving and decoding information. That information is programming our minds, so to speak. Now, the nature of this programming can have an end result that determines our belief systems, what we've come to know about ourselves and the world around us, what we know about our environment, and how we interact with it, whether we are aware of it or not. From the time that we were small children, when we were brought into this world, you're given a name, your parents give you an identity, you're given a place to live, if you're fortunate. You grow up into a family. This family and your parents have a set of belief systems and ideas. And they're telling you this, and you're being bombarded with this information, oftentimes before you're even born. You're aware of the sounds and vibrations coming in utero through the mother's body and her own voice and vibrations and the world around her. And that is even being programmed into our minds at a subconscious level. So from very early on, our brains are being programmed to think and act a certain way. And this becomes a foundation of ideas that we typically base our principles upon, and how we choose to perceive the world. As we grow up and as we grow older, we're exposed, especially in today's day and age, cell phones, TVs. You get into school, the school system's telling you and teaching you what to think and what to believe. Now, I am not the first individual on YouTube to bring up this subject, but I thought I would bring it up from my perspective and hopefully get a discussion started with you guys on the topic. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, what information are you allowing to come into your mind? What do you choose to watch on TV? What do you choose to look at when you're scrolling on your cell phone? What kind of books do you read? What kind of music do you listen to? Now, the sounds, the vibrations, the imagery of whatever the content is that you're choosing to indulge in has an effect on your mind, whether you're aware of it or not. For instance, based on the TV shows that you've grown up watching, if you grew up watching a lot of trash television, it's going to give you a very, what's the best way to put this? A mind that's full of sludge. If you've consumed a bunch of information that has just been non-stimulating to your mind, didn't challenge your brain in some way, didn't force you to think, then your mind is going to be very understimulated. See, television programming is called just that for a reason. I believe, don't quote me on this, all the major news networks are owned by only 6 companies, 6 corporations. And all that information that is broadcast on the television, broadcast out into the world, broadcast on the television, we're taking in through our eyes. And it's going into our brains, and our brains are decoding that information. Our subconscious mind is looking for ways to find the relevance in this information that we're taking in, and it decides what to do with it. this is something that pertains to you or it doesn't pertain to you, or maybe this is something that you should be looking out for or be watching for. All the fear-mongering that's promoted nowadays on especially the news networks is very detrimental. It causes us to fear the world. It causes us to have a very negative outlook on the world around us. It causes us to look negatively into parts of the world that we may have never even seen firsthand and seen for ourselves. Why is all this happening? Why is this important? Well, if you are able to give the general population, we'll call the world the general population, a base set of ideas about what's going on around them, that information can be changed. It can be molded. That information can be used to persuade us to think and feel and act a certain way. That information can persuade us into consuming certain products. And if we're consuming certain products, we're causing certain industries to grow and fluctuate. And it's the basis of our economy. The economy itself can be controlled through the use of media and different outlets, different types and different sources of programming. Everything from our books, even books are regulated as to what can be published nowadays. Censorship's a big deal. There's lots of really good sources of information that's being censored because it encourages free thinking, much like what this channel does. It encourages you to question the status quo, so to speak. It encourages you to think for yourself, to think outside of the box and question what's going on around you. Now, some of you may have never questioned any of this or may have never known that. And if you didn't, well, here you are. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Everything, video games, the violent nature of video games that's now just socially acceptable in society that we expose our children to. They grow up thinking that murder and death and violence is just a common thing, and it desensitizes children at a very young age into thinking that, it's acceptable to murder someone for any reason. We murder people because of this. We blindly go to war, and we're accepting of the nature of war because it's what we've come to understand, and accept our whole life. Patriotism is established into our brains at a very young age in school when we say the Pledge of Allegiance. And this is not to denote any kind of, this isn't to speak ill of the government or to speak ill about patriotism. All I'm saying is that the fundamentals of patriotism force us to perhaps cast a blind eye at nations that surround us. I mean, we're separated by invisible borders because of media outlets. We're not going to leave that subject alone. You can fill in the blanks on that. Other ways that society's thinking is controlled is through movies. It's not just television programming, but certain movies are made that appeal to the minds and hearts of people around us because it encourages ideas of separateness, vanity, and greed, and all of these things can be manipulated and controlled. And now, why is this important? Well, it's in my opinion that the powers that be know and understand that what we think about, what we focus on, we create. And the reason for that, and I've mentioned this before, is when we use our minds to think of an idea, we then focus on that idea. And us focusing on that idea forces us to take some sort of action. We do something because of the things that we're thinking about. And in that doing creates something. That's the term manifestation. That's how we use our thoughts to manifest, because our thoughts cause us to take a certain series of steps, certain actions that cause us to make something happen, to make something change or move or grow or be destroyed. So if you can use media outlets and TV to control what we think about is going to, in essence, control what we do. And in controlling what we do, it's going to control the direction that the world economy goes in. It's going to control the condition that society lives in. It's going to, over time, with repetition, where it establishes these neural pathways of us just accepting things are the way they are because of the influence of programming that we've consumed over the years. It starts to set a sociological norm that we don't question certain principles. We don't view certain things as being wrong because it's just, we've just been told that it's correct. And I think the only way that you can get around this is to stop. Think for yourself and say, what is this that I'm watching? What is this that I'm agreeing to let come into the forefront of my mind? And how is what I'm seeing affecting my decision-making abilities? Because that's very important. It forces us also to look at ourselves in a certain way. If you're watching a lot of programming that promotes beauty and that tells us that you have to look a certain way and that you have to fit into a certain mold, we start to feel inadequate and we start to feel unhappy with ourselves. And that causes us to have bodily issues that might cause us to go to the doctor and pay for surgeries to fix our so-called issues, or to buy makeup products or different cosmetics, or to wear certain clothes. It's a domino effect of control. It's called programming for a reason. And we're the only ones that can make it stop or change. The purpose of this video isn't to cause some sort of uprising or revolt. It's merely to educate you on something that you may have not known about. As I've said before, power is in the knowing. And we have to be very careful about what we put into our bodies. And it's not just the food that we eat, but the information that we process. It's also very important that we be mindful of the information that we put out into the world. Everything that we do and say, in essence, is a form of programming with our fellow humans. Depending on how another person perceives you or looks at you, you could have major influence on them and not even realize it. So the things that you're saying and doing and the actions that you're taking to some degree are programming their minds in a way and are causing them to think and feel a certain way and to do a certain thing. Even my videos are a form of programming, but I don't want you to think of it as I am trying to deceitfully program anyone. I am attempting to challenge you to think of the world in a different way. We make life very complicated, and it doesn't have to be. We make understanding the nature of reality this complex subject when it's not. We are born into this life with a certain set of tools and faculties. We're born with instincts that are not nurtured. We are born with a mind that has the ability to create and do anything that we see fit. Our imagination is one of the most powerful things that we have, and it's a precious gift that oftentimes isn't fostered. People that are deemed as eccentrics or artists are often typically mocked for questioning the status quo, going against the norm, so to speak, because I believe it's those people that are the ones that go against the grain, and they're the ones that aren't afraid to try new things. They want to think outside of the box, and if we're thinking outside of the box, we're not consuming in a certain pattern. We're not being a bunch of sheep that are easily being, just led around blindly by the powers that be. Control is very, very important in today's society. I'm beginning to figure that out more and more every day. I see it all around me. I mean, it's in advertising, You don't think that when you're just driving down the road and you're seeing billboards, whether you're paying much attention to them or not, even if you glance at it, your subconscious has picked up the colors, the imagery that's in that advertisement, the overall context of it. And 5 minutes from now, you might be craving a Big Mac and not even realize that you weren't craving a Big Mac until you looked at the McDonald's billboard about 3 miles back. And that causes you to go to McDonald's and get out your wallet and spend money for some chemically processed food that's going to be damaging to your body. It's going to weigh you down. It's going to lower your vibration. And it's going to cause you to formulate, if you don't already have one, a dependency on the chemicals that's in that burger, and you're going to continue to feed that cycle, and the rich are going to continue to get richer. It's everywhere. It's all around us. You just have to be very, very careful about what you're putting inside of your brain. We can break this down even further. This information is being passed to us through different wavelengths of light, accompanied by different wavelengths of sound and vibration. And those light waves and those sound waves are affecting our nervous system and our behaviors and our attitude towards life. That's all it is. It's just a series of sounds and noises that make us think and do things a certain way. And we can change that when we become aware of it. We can decide not to take certain things in. It's not just there. Programming is in our food as well. Nowadays, healthy eating is becoming more socially acceptable and is becoming more available. But for many years up to this point, we've just been consuming chemicals and blindly consuming junk food and never asking ourselves what effect is all of these processed foods having on our bodies, guts, our brains, our nervous system. How is it affecting our body? If we're consuming products that are negatively affecting our bodies and making us feel bad, that's going to force us to, again, think a certain way and to feel a certain way and to buy certain things to make us feel better and to continue to feed into that cycle. It's all very easy to understand if you're willing to understand it. Go back and think about how society used to be before information was so easily spread around the world. This has been going on since the dawn of humanity. Since we figured out how to pass information along, other humans have been trying to use information to manipulate other humans. This is absolutely not a new concept. It's just over the years, decades, centuries, it's gotten easier and easier and easier as our technology has advanced. Information that used to take weeks to get from one side of the globe to the other can now be transmitted from one side of the globe to the other in seconds. So if you just sit back and think about it, it's really scary. But it doesn't have to be. I am by no means promoting fear here. Just want you to think. I want you to feel for yourself. I want you to perceive the world the way you want to perceive it. I want you to design a reality that you see fit for you, because of you, not because anyone told you or influenced you to have or live your life a certain way, but because you're living it the way you want to. You're living it by your own rules and your own set of ideas and freedoms, not the freedoms that you're told you have or the freedoms that you're told is okay to have. Every single person on this planet is an individual with their own set of ideas, thoughts, and feelings. But the media would have you believing something else. The media is always going to tell you that if you don't wear a certain thing, or you don't look a certain way, or you don't act a certain way, or I think I just repeated myself, but media is always going to be there to tell you that, hey, this is the newest thing. This is how you need to be. If you're not rich, you're nothing. If you're not beautiful, you're nothing. It's kind of sad and disgusting. I mean, you can see, we can use social media as an example. You can see how simple it is to get people in a certain mind state. It's almost like if you think of humanity as a hive of bees, and you introduce information to this hive of bees, and it gets them to do a certain thing. You can always tell when something becomes popular on Facebook or one of the social media outlets, a meme of sorts, and it starts to get generated and passed around. It's almost as if that's a testing ground to see what we will accept or what we will find humorous and what we will share. And we'll never question what the actual meaning of the subject matter is. But if there's something about it that makes us feel a certain way, that produces a certain set of chemicals inside of our brain, such as dopamine, when we laugh or find something humorous, then it's almost like that becomes a hot button, and everybody just passes it along and blindly talks about it for weeks on end. It's insane if you really sit back and think about it. I mean, what are we doing here, folks? What are we spending our time on? Are we making the world a better place to live in? Do most of us even want to? Are we helping ourselves? Are we helping the people around us? Or not? Because those concepts are not widely accepted. We're taught to fend for ourselves, and that everybody else is separate from you, and look out for number one and take care of number one first. Well, while yourself is important, and while self-care is important, and while you can't help anyone if you're not helping yourself, we're not separate. We're all floating on the same rock in the cosmos as one. We all breathe the same air, and we all bleed. And we all have a right to life and a humane existence on this planet. And we all have a right to food and water and shelter. And, you know, people aren't thinking that way. We spend trillions of dollars on war when it would only take a few billion to end world hunger. We put people that don't contribute to this planet up on a pedestal, and we praise them, and we give them the golden crown of celebrity, when they're real pioneers and real movers and shakers of this world, working diligently day in and day out to make profound change. They're not even talked about. What's wrong with that picture? Why isn't the media talking about the people that's discovering cures for diseases and is working towards ending world hunger and different crises like that? Why don't we find that? Why don't we put our stock in that? Why don't we find some value in that? It's all because of our programming, folks. It's all because of the information we're putting up here, and then the actions that we're choosing to take because of the information that we've taken in. We're being told what world to manifest, and it's becoming a very ugly place. And it doesn't have to be. We can choose to stand up and do what's right and make this a utopia for us all to enjoy. There's enough for everyone to have everything they need and more 10 times over. If we can just learn to love one another and to manage our resources and to give back and to contribute and to stop ingesting so much mental garbage. I think I'm going to stop right there. This video is getting kind of long, and I think I got on kind of a soapbox tangent. Sorry if my words in this video have offended anyone. That was not my intentions. like I said earlier, I'm just looking to force you to maybe consider some things that you might have never considered before, and to look inside yourself and to question your reality and to make it what you want, to get what you want out of life. The key to living is to love everyone as you love yourself. Give more than you receive. Always give more than you receive. And to never look down on anyone unless you're lifting them up. It sounds very cliche, but it's just the honest truth. I think it's just what we need to be doing. If you found value in this video tonight, please like and subscribe to my channel, and I encourage you to leave your comments in the comments box below. Let's discuss this subject. If you want to go further in depth on it, or if you want me to make another video covering this topic, I'll be more than happy to do that. Just let me know what you think in the box below. And until next time, I hope that you have much love in your heart, much balance in your mind and in your soul, and just overall peace